Hello, hello. Welcome back to Creatrix with Jade. Today, I want to do a solo episode for you where I really just share with you what has helped me in my recovery process post miscarriage and post pregnancy loss. I experienced my first pregnancy and first pregnancy loss earlier this year. So I got pregnant in January 2026 at, the time of this recording. Well, technically conceived in December, but then found out I was pregnant in January. And at 10 weeks, I went to do my first ultrasound, and they found that my baby embryo, was measuring at 6 weeks when it was supposed to be 10 weeks. And so we discovered that I was having a missed miscarriage, also known as a silent miscarriage. And I ended up passing the pregnancy on my own at 12 weeks. I had scheduled a DNC for exactly 12 weeks, and I passed the pregnancy on my own at home the night before the scheduled DNC. And I ended up going to my DNC anyway to just help extract the rest of the pregnancy tissue that hadn't finished passing yet. So yeah, I just wanted to share my experience first, give a little context to why I am offering this episode, this video today. If you're watching on YouTube, pregnancy loss and miscarriage was not something that I knew anything about really when I got pregnant. I knew that it was somewhat common. I knew that it was a risk, but I had no education around it. And I feel like a lot of young women, a lot of moms to be, don't either. It's not something that is talked about nearly enough. It's not something that is a part of, women's health education and sex education. And so, it's important that more of us women who have walked through this path, who have navigated this kind of grief, this kind of loss, offer to each other the things that have helped them. And these are my personal suggestions and recommendations through my personal experience, coming from my culture and coming from just the things that have helped me and the things that I've learned along my journey. And I feel like I'm finally now at a place, it's been over 3 months. It's been 3 months since the miscarriage, and I feel like I'm finally at a place where I feel like I can offer these tips and this guidance from a embodied and grounded place. So again, take what you need from this, take what resonates, please leave what doesn't. And, if you are watching this and you are currently navigating the early stages of miscarriage and pregnancy loss, I'm here with you. I feel you. And I'm so sorry that this is happening. If you are watching this on behalf of someone in your life, or you're simply curious, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for, being a part and participating in this conversation that, again, is just not had enough in this world. So yeah, wherever you are, however you are tuning in, I hope you get what you are meant to out of it. So, okay, I have a whole list of things that I've written out that I want to share. Starting off with, please take time off after miscarriage, after pregnancy loss. I wrote here, take time off if possible, but please, really take time off. When I had my DNC, the aftercare that was given to me by my doctor was essentially to take the rest of the day off. My DNC was scheduled for the morning, and they were like, you'll feel a bit woozy for the rest of the day because of the anesthetics, but you'll be able to just go back to normal activities and go back to work the next day. And my opinion on this is, after going through it myself, is, Yes, you physically could. You could force yourself to go back to work. You could force yourself to go back to normal, but that does not mean that you should. And I don't recommend it. My recommendation is to really just take at least a week off, if not 3 weeks. However your loss happened, however early or late it was, and however it happened, whether you took the pill, whether you passed it naturally yourself, or whether you did a DNC and had it extracted, you just experienced something deeply traumatic, right? Emotionally traumatic, mentally traumatic, physically traumatic. People don't talk enough about how traumatic being in the hospital, being in the clinic is when, you are getting a DNC. It's, yeah, and like being at home, passing the pregnancy, the kind of pain that some women go through, that I went through when I passed my pregnancy at home, it is basically, it's like preterm labor that you go through, and it's traumatic to see yourself bleeding in this way. It's a lot on the body, it's a lot on the mind. And so please treat yourself with compassion, radical love and kindness. And, yeah, treat yourself in that way. It's shocking for the body, and there's just so much emotion that you're wading through. It takes time to, first move through the initial shock, and then to let all of that land into grief and into whatever process comes after that for you. And what I'll also say to this is, people don't realize that, post-pregnancy loss is still a postpartum process. Like you essentially in some way have given birth. Again, whether you passed your pregnancy at 6 weeks, or whether, it was 12 weeks like me, or whether it was it was a second term pregnancy loss. It's postpartum. You are in the postpartum process, right? Your hormones changed. Your body literally changed during pregnancy. And so you've just given birth. You've just passed pregnancy tissue. And so again, treat yourself as though you are postpartum. Would you go back to work the next day if you had just given birth? No, right? You would take some time off. And so please, I know everyone has different circumstances. Not everyone is just able to take 3 weeks off work, but, please take as much time as you can and be gentle with yourself, and draw that boundary for yourself, right? If time is what you need. So going off of the fact that this is a postpartum process that you're in, number one, you might bleed, right? And the bleeding might go on for a while. It might go on for, a week or 2 or even 3. After, you might need to wear pads, and that's quite a traumatic thing because essentially you've kind of just given birth, but you have no baby in your arms, and instead there's just a lot of blood, and it's a reminder of the loss that keeps going. And again, be tender with yourself and really just take care of yourself as you bleed. You might experience hair loss, right? Just like in postpartum. Some women will lose their hair because of just the hormone fluctuations. I experienced a little bit of hair loss after my miscarriage. So that's something to just be aware of, and don't freak out if that happens. Your hair will grow back. You might experience bloating. You might experience some weight gain. You might experience looser skin if you did start to show a little bit. And you pass the pregnancy, then, your skin has expanded. The elasticity of your skin has changed. And, you might just notice some changes in your belly area. And of course, with first trimester, however that process was for you, whether you ate a lot or whether you had a lot of fatigue symptoms, whether you went to the gym or not, that's going to, that's going to affect how your body did adapt to the pregnancy, and how, you just need to be gentle with yourself in the postpartum process. With the hormones make you emotional sometimes. They make you feel a little bit turbulent inside. And so, on top of the grief, on top of the sorrow, on top of the whole bunch of raw human emotions that are there, you might find that those emotions are even spikier than you've ever experienced, really because the hormones are potentially exacerbating your emotional experience. So yeah, just being mindful and aware of that, right? And like not being hard on yourself with that, not thinking you're crazy because your emotions are just almost like so out of whack or like feeling so uncontrollable. Please just be kind to yourself. And the last thing I'll say is fatigue, right? Or, even a feeling of postpartum depression. And this is, on so many facets, right? Like just having gone through a miscarriage and pregnancy loss, of course, there is a deep, deep sorrow and grief and, a state that can feel like depression, can be like depression, right? It's a huge loss you've just experienced. And so, the depression that you may feel is real. And also, right, like the hormones that are coursing through your body, that takes about 1 to 2 months to really come back to normal, if not more. Normal being like baseline. That may also exacerbate the postpartum depression. And fatigue is often an effect of that depression as well. So, and also your body just went through a lot. So if you're experiencing mental and physical fatigue, it's normal, right? So just please be mindful of all of this. Now, next thing I have on here, something that actually really helped me, really supported me, that I never really expected would, was Reddit. There is an incredible community on Reddit for miscarriage recovery and miscarriage support and miscarriage awareness. I've never been a Reddit girl. I've never been a Reddit prowler. I'll use it sometimes to check out like reviews for restaurants or TV shows, but nothing more than that. But during my miscarriage and, while I was in the silent miscarriage, waiting for my body to pass the pregnancy, waiting for my DNC, I just basically felt like I had no information on what was actually happening in my body. And I, I don't have, to be honest, that many friends who have gone through pregnancy loss at this point in my life. And actually virtually no friends. I didn't know anyone in my real life who had gone through a miscarriage like mine. So I just didn't have any information. I didn't know what was happening. And, you could Google and like find the WebMD definitions of everything. But Reddit was just a beautiful place where I became exposed to other women's experiences, other women who have gone through very similar losses to me. And it just gave me a sense of relief. It gave me a sense of not peace, but it gave me a sense of like being understood and feeling like I wasn't alone, entirely alone in the process, and feeling like, okay, there are people who understand, and even just that knowing was helpful. But, after I passed the pregnancy, when I was in recovery at home, I actually went on Reddit and went to those same forums, and I, shared my own experience on there. I shared, to different questions. I just responded to different things and really just tried to engage with the community as best I could. And that was also, a way that I felt like I stayed connected to some form of community, even if the community was online. And, I'll jump in here and say, don't be afraid to talk to your friends, even the friends who you might perceive don't understand or, haven't gone through a miscarriage. Sometimes you'd be surprised at how, your close friends are able to hold you. And you'd be surprised at how much better you'll feel after, just being able to articulate and just share your feelings to a friend that you trust. And at the same time, I will say, like, finding people, whether it's in real life or online or wherever, friends of friends, finding people, even a support group, right? Like finding people who have walked through a similar journey, who understand this very nuanced and specific experience of loss. It is important. At least for me, it was really, really important. So, yeah, really don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to, look into what other people have experienced, not from a place of comparison, but from a place of like, not even curiosity, but just like allowing yourself to be resonated with. It's really important for the nervous system and for the soul and for the heart. But yeah, with friends and community, I will say here though, at least for me, in the beginning of my recovery journey, so like in the first week after I, passed the pregnancy and I got back from my DNC, I didn't want to talk to anyone. Like, I didn't really want to talk to my friends. Like, I just kind of texted my friends and let them know that I was okay. Like, I'm alive, I'm fine. But my friends, they love me. Your friends love you. And they'll check in and they'll be like, how are you doing? I'm here to talk if you need to. And like I said already, like, if you want to talk, beautiful. And at the same time, I feel like I have to say this, don't be afraid to draw boundaries where you need to. Don't be afraid to, need to nurture or protect your own energy as you need to, right? It's a very sacred, it's a very vulnerable and tender time. For me, I'm an internal processor, to be honest. And so there was a week where I just needed to internally process. And the only person that I really spoke to properly about my experience of the loss was my husband. And so, really discern for yourself what your social battery is, what your actual community and social needs are. And yeah, reach out to community, use community however really feels right for you. Okay, now I want to talk about some herbal remedies that really served me. And kind of going from like emotional, deeper things to I'm going to give you some practical applications, and just like practical, just little things that have helped me. And then I'm going to talk more about grief towards the end, and like grief support and healing from grief. So herbal remedies. I drank a lot of chamomile tea right after my loss. So I would say for the week, 2 weeks after, I drank a lot of chamomile tea, hot chamomile tea every day. And that was just really good for calming my nervous system. I could really feel it viscerally. And it was just very warming and soothing. That brings me to, in the month, I would say after miscarriage, please do not consume any cold foods or drinks. Even if it's the heat of summer, I would really, really advise don't consume cold things, especially ice cold drinks. And that's because in Chinese medicine, and Chinese medicine, I'm Chinese. I deeply believe in traditional Chinese medicine, and it's something that in my own practice with work, I have kind of gone into a deeper exploration with over the past several months. So I'm really into it. And I'm not a doctor. I'll say this first. I'm not a Chinese medicine doctor, but these are the things that I've learned and that have helped, and it really does help. Ice cold and cold drinks and foods will shock your nervous system. It will shock your body, and especially because your womb is recovering, your womb is a really warm place, right? And you've just lost a lot of blood. We actually want the womb to stay warm and to contain the blood that is there, that is still there. And so if you're drinking a lot of cold things, eating a lot of cold things, it will literally counteract the warmth of the womb. So we really want to warm up your body, and we want to warm up your womb. Even when it comes to conceiving again, when it comes to fertility, you'll want to be sure to continue eating more warm and hot foods, because that, again, helps the circulation of your womb. It helps the strengthening of your womb. So what this basically means in practical application is eat warm soups and stews. Okay, soups and stews. Marge, no. Why? No. Babe, what are you doing? Oh, God. Marge. Marge, stop. Marge. I'm gonna record something. Marge. Very triggered. Marge. 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 Where are you going? Did you come up? Oh, that's why. She heard us. And then she heard a dog. Go. Go. Marge, come on. I need to work. Come on. So, practical application, that means eating warm soups and stews. So, in practical application, that means eating warm and hot soups and stews, right? So, whether you're vegetarian or carnivorous, like So what that basically means is eat warm and hot soups and stews. Lots of liquids to hydrate the body and to help your blood move again. And yeah, just like find lots of, nice recipes that you can cook up in a slow cooker that is warm, hot, and nourishing. Okay. So after 1 week, and this is what helped me, a week after my miscarriage, I drank red raspberry leaf tea on top of the chamomile. And red raspberry leaf tea is something that is used in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, often to strengthen the uterine lining, to tone the uterine body, so that essentially like labor and the birth process can be a little bit easier and smoother. But it's also really helpful for postpartum, because it just helps to strengthen and tone the uterine lining after loss. It helps to build all of the lost tissue back up. So I highly recommend that. That was really helpful, and I drank that about once a day with chamomile tea once a day as well. After about a month or so, here are some recommendations that you can try out that are based on Chinese medicine. So what I really loved having was jujube date tea and goji berry tea. So jujube dates and goji berries are really good for the blood, really good for circulating and strengthening your blood and your kidney. So what I do is essentially I just cut up jujube dates. Make sure the pits are taken out. And you can have, dried goji berries, maybe about, 6 dates and 6 goji berries ish. You steep that in boiling water for, I would say, like as long as possible. Sometimes I like to cook it over a stovetop so the flavors really get infused. I boil it for about like half an hour, so quite a long time to really get the sugars out of the fruit. And then I drink it, and it's really, really tasty. It's slightly sweet, and yeah, it's really good for your blood. Ginger is also really good. So putting ginger in your food, putting ginger in your drinks. Sometimes I'll add ginger into my date and goji berry tea, as well as making ginger tea, right? So fresh ginger ideally, but you can also use ginger tea bags or ginger powder. But ginger is really good for your blood as well, and for warming the body. Now, the last recommendation that I have here that I personally used pretty much, this was about a month and a half after my miscarriage. I was back in Hong Kong, and this was upon my parents' recommendation. And it's a little bit pricier, this herb that I'm about to recommend, but if you do have access to it, it is a really beautiful and powerful and effective mushroom for the immune system. So I essentially cook black silky chicken. This is a specific type of chicken, breed of chicken, that essentially has black meat, has a darker meat, and it is known to be a little bit more nutritious and warming than typical white chicken. And I cook that in my crock pot, slow cooker, with caterpillar fungus. So it's called dong chong ha chou. In Cantonese, you can look up just caterpillar fungus, and they literally look like worms, but they're actually a mushroom. They're a fungi, and you're not actually eating worms, though it looks like it. They smell, and they're a little bit pungent, but when you cook them into a soup or a drink, it's really, really good for you. And I found that I think actually really did help my energy levels. I was still feeling quite fatigued at the 1 month mark. So yeah, having chicken soup was really good. And even if you can't access like special herbs like this, chicken soup, right? If you eat chicken, really good. Any kind of chicken soup, homemade chicken soup is even better. And if you're vegetarian, really just like lots of hearty beans, black beans, red beans are good for the blood. So, you could do chilies. I would recommend not spicy for, the first month after miscarriage. But yeah, you can make like bean soups. You can have chilies that are not spicy. And that will be really warming and nourishing and good for you. Something else I recommend is yoni steams. So I had done a yoni steam long time ago, like a few years ago, and I hadn't done a yoni steam really since I was in Costa Rica and had a very beautiful yoni steam experience. Never thought I could really do it at home. I heard that you could, but it's actually pretty simple. And one of my friends who is a Ayurvedic practitioner as well as a spiritual mentor, she suggested that I do a yoni steam. So I did, and I would recommend also doing this at about post at least 2 weeks after miscarriage, definitely after you have stopped bleeding, well after you have stopped bleeding. So if you are still bleeding, please do not do a yoni steam. It is going to activate and trigger the bleeding even more. But like I would say a good several days after you have stopped bleeding, then you can go ahead and try a yoni steam to help just essentially like rejuvenate the uterus and the cervical area energetically. The herb combination that I used for my yoni steam was basil, motherwort, calendula. Three things: basil, motherwort, calendula. I went to my organic herb store where they have loose leaf herbs, and I, yeah, just bought about 3 portions worth of each, and I did about 3 yoni steams, 1 or 2 weeks apart. About, yeah, 2 to 3 weeks after my miscarriage. Please make sure get organic herbs, because it's literally like it's like the steam goes up into your vagina, it goes right up into your uterus, and it goes right up into your bloodstream. So it's really important that you buy the best quality herbs possible when you do a yoni steam. I'll give you a little more tips here, actually. With a yoni steam, a lot of people are like, okay, how do you do it at home? Pretty simple. I mean, if you have a like yoni steam stool, then you'll know how to use it. But if you are a yoni steam noob, like I was, all you have to do is grab your biggest pot, so your biggest cooking pot. You fill it up halfway, I would say, right? A big pot halfway through water, just enough. Just use your intuition and common sense. Boil water, and then pour about, oh, I actually don't know the grammage. I would say about like this much. like, 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 yeah, a small handful of each of these herbs each. Put them into the boiling water, close the lid, put the lid over the boiling water, turn it off boiling, and just let all of that steep for about 5 minutes or so. And then you can open the lid, let a lot of the initial hot steam evaporate, and let the mixture, let the tea, I suppose, come into a lesser hot temperature. Like basically if you put your hand, come here. Do you want to come here? Do you want to come here? Wish. If you put your hand on top of the boiling water, if you put your hand on top of the hot water, it should not feel scalding. It should feel warm to touch. So this is really important. You don't want to burn your sensitive areas. You don't want to burn your vagina. Very important. So if it feels at all too hot, it's too hot. So make sure it just comes into a warm place. It's okay if a lot of the steam evaporates. There will still be a lot to come. So then what you do is what I do is I lean over my couch, or I lean over like a low coffee table. So kind of like you're kneeling on the floor. You have your pot on the floor, your legs straddling it. I would recommend, important here, put a towel around the rim and the entire perimeter of the pot so that the metal doesn't burn you. And have like a blanket or a towel around you that can literally cover the entire circumference of your, hip, your leg area, as well as the pot. So essentially you're creating a tent that contains all the steam, and you essentially I just like kneel over my sofa and I, let the steam just come into me. I don't use my phone. I just essentially come into my body. I take deep breaths. I like to set an intention sometimes before I do a steam. And it can just be an intention as simple as, I intend for this steam to help my body heal and to help my womb heal in the most beautiful way. I intend that my womb receives and absorbs the nutrients of the steam. Can be as simple as that. So, that's a big recommendation of mine. Next off, acupuncture. Acupuncture has been so effective and powerful for me. Even during my first trimester, I went to acupuncture for my morning sickness and for my fatigue, and it helped tremendously. And so about, I would say 3 or 4 weeks after my miscarriage, I gave it some time. But about 3 or 4 weeks after, I went back to my acupuncturist, and she just looked at my pulse, looked at my body, looked at what I need, and gave me a treatment. So, if you have an acupuncturist that you trust, then I would highly suggest going to acupuncture in the postpartum process. Now, writing for me was powerful. Post miscarriage, I just felt a deep desire to reflect and introspect through writing. I think it felt, just for me personally, like there was so much in my head that felt so confused and so buzzy, and it just felt like a lot up in my head, and I wanted to ground it down and just like articulate it, put it into words. And so I just started writing. I wrote about my, entire story, the miscarriage story, the pregnancy story from beginning to end. And, I also journaled in that time, and I put some of my, the handwritten journaling pieces that came through into my writing. And eventually I personally decided to start a Substack, and I shared my story on Substack. I also shared it on my podcast as a spoken word piece. If you want to check that out, that's there for you. But writing was really cathartic for me. It was a really brilliant way for me to cognitively process what had happened. And it was a way in which, it was a way that supported my grieving as well. So, would recommend writing and journaling if that feels good. I would also recommend writing a letter to your baby. And I know this one is confronting. This one is a lot. Only do this if this feels right and when it feels right. You might not feel like you want to do this for weeks, months after the loss, but writing a letter to your baby, writing a letter of love, of gratitude, of whatever you want to say to them, and really also creating a ritual around how you want to send that letter out. Even though our baby can't necessarily read it and receive it in the mail and the post, I'm deeply spiritual, and we'll get into some spiritual things at the end, but a way that you can really send this letter out, share this letter into the universe, is to create a ritual around it. You could bury it into earth. You could set it out into water. There are many ways. I would tune into what feels right for you, but writing a letter and maybe creating a ritual around that letter to your baby, and letting yourself be in all of your emotions, letting yourself feel what you need to, grieve what you need to as you write. Making art was really powerful for me as well. Dance for me has always been something that has allowed me to access a lot of like stored emotions in my body, but post miscarriage, dance for me personally wasn't the vessel, wasn't the medium. It felt too active. My body didn't feel like it wanted to move so vigorously or even much. And so what I actually ended up doing was I joined a clay workshop for the first time in a few years. So I used to be really into throwing, loved throwing, like wheel throwing, but hadn't done that in a while. And I, while I was, essentially waiting for my pregnancy to pass, I joined a clay workshop nearby me, and I just got my hands dirty with the earth, and it felt really, really good. It was very grounding. It felt very cathartic. It felt like the clay could hold my tears, and the clay could hold my energy. And so if that calls to you, recommend, right? If painting calls to you, if drawing calls to you, if music calls to you, right? If you want to make music, if you want to play music, if you play an instrument, take this time to make art. Art is a way that we can really alchemize and express emotion and our experiences, our stories really beautifully. I'll also say here, exercise. Exercise gently. Move your body gently, right? So right after miscarriage, take time for your body to be in stillness, to be in recovery. I would recommend don't do more than going for very short walks and very gentle stretches at home. Even if you're an exercise bunny, please like be aware of the fact that, again, your body has just gone through birth. And, you know, if you were postpartum after giving birth, would you be back on the treadmill? Probably not. So just really be discerning with that. And at the same time, make sure you get movement in, right? Make sure that you are tuning into your body, even in just little ways, that you are getting your blood moving, even if it's just a little bit every day. Because it's very easy when you are, you know, in the throes of grief, when you are feeling really low, to not want to move at all, right? To want to just be stuck on the couch. I was definitely guilty of that. And it really was like a practice of devotion for me to get myself to move my body. But I did find that, like, okay, when I went for short walks, I felt a lot better. Even just like I felt like I could breathe a little bit deeper. So make sure that you're getting some form of movement in your days. Okay, so something else that helped me was reading. And I, you know, for a long time have been, I don't know, I read a lot of like books that are related to my work, you know, books that are related to things that expand my mind and consciousness for work. Self-development books, you know, spiritual books. And I love it. I love reading those books. However, right, like, you know, books that are related to development or related to work or related to any form of productivity, even like subconsciously, it's heady. It's very mind heavy, and you don't need that in this time, in this season. And so my mentor actually recommended I read some romantasy. So if you don't know that genre, it's romantic fantasy. So I got into the series Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I was already a fan of Sarah J. Maas. I'd read, you know, ACOTAR and Throne of Glass and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I got into a whole new series, and, you know, it was a little bit of escapism that was just really juicy. It brought me into another world that was not mine, that was not my grief for a little bit. And yeah, it was a good way to be in quiet with myself without being in my, you know, my thoughts and my feelings all the time. So reading something that is fun for you, reading something that is juicy for you, reading something that is new, I recommend in, you know, the time that you have, in the time that you take off after the loss. Okay, now I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to talk about, yeah, just some, you know, deeper emotional perspectives on the recovery. Please feel all of your feelings. Please feel all of your feelings. Please don't fight any feeling, any emotion that you're having. Please don't judge any thoughts, any experiences that you're having. Please don't avoid. Please don't shove it down. Please don't repress it, right? Grief, you might experience grief. You will experience grief. You may also experience anger. You may also experience frustration. You may also feel rageful, right? You may feel shame. You may feel guilt. You will feel a plethora of emotions that will be a lot. They may feel overwhelming. And I invite you to hold yourself in holding all of it as best as you can. Know that your body never gives you anything that you can't handle. Meaning any emotion that is coming up, you're experiencing it because there's a teacher in there, because there's a process that your nervous system is ready to feel. It comes up because you're ready to feel it. And so, you know, feel it. Don't get caught up in the story and the mind chatter. Notice where you go into blame, you go into self-blame, where you go into stories of, you know, victim, or, you know, like external blame or, taking too much self-responsibility for anything. Just notice where you get caught up in the story. And, where you get caught up in the story, really ask yourself, is what I'm telling myself true? Is it real? Like, is it actually true? Is it actually real? And try to find your own sense of grounding and logic in all of the chatter that is bound to happen up in the mind. And in that, letting that go, but where your body is feeling very visceral states and feelings and emotions, feel them. Let yourself cry, let yourself scream, let yourself wail. Let yourself. It's really important, right? Like, so many of all humans really, but especially women, well, just really all humans, we are conditioned to suppress our raw, wild feelings, right? Especially what comes up from immense loss. The emotions that come up, the experiences that you have viscerally can feel very wild, and it can feel very out of control. It can seem like it's out of control, and it could seem like it's too much. And what I can tell you is that it's not. And the most important thing you can do is really just allow yourself to feel, because what you don't feel will stay in your body. It will live in your body. It will store as trauma. It will store as pain. It will store as inflammation. It will store as unprocessed memory. And one day, eventually, it will come back up, and you will have to feel it and go through it anyway. And so, my invitation with my clients, with myself, with, through any kind of emotion that you're experiencing at any point of life, feel the feelings that are coming up right now. Do the work right now to be with yourself. Give compassion to yourself while it's ripe, while it's raw, and while, it's here with you. Don't fight it, right? And take as long as you need. Take as much space as you need. And it's okay if you don't feel like doing the things that you used to enjoy anymore, right? Especially in the imminent period after loss. Don't try to go back to normal. I'm saying normal with air quotes. Like, there is no normal. There is no normal after immense grief. There is no normal after a loss like this, right? Like, I think, pregnancy loss, miscarriage, any kind of real, just shocking loss in your life, whether it's even a death of a loved one, it changes you. It completely changes you. It completely changes your worldview. It changes who you are on a really cellular level. And, people in your life may expect you to be back to normal, quote unquote normal, on some kind of timeline. You might be conditioned to think to yourself, I just want to go back to normal. I'm so sick of this. I don't want to feel this anymore. Or it could be I just don't want to think about this. It's too sad. I just want to go back to normal. Please no, there's no such thing as normal. You'll never go back to normal. This is a process for you to find a new normal. And a new normal gets to be even more beautiful than what was your old normal. But, this concept of normal, I see so often a thing that comes up in just a lot of mind chatter. And, don't hold yourself to the same behaviors, to the same desires, to the same standards, to the same ways of being that you had, that you were operating from pre-loss, pre all of this, because you're a different person. So, even the things that you logically think, when you're going through recovery, the things that you logically think are good for you, really notice where you are resisting where you are meant to be, resisting the grief, resisting the pain, resisting the process that you are going through by trying to escape from it, by trying to push forward, by trying to make yourself get better ASAP. It doesn't work that way. The more you avoid, the more you resist, the more you push, the more you try to force yourself to get better, when you just can't force the process of grief or recovery, you'll only create more suffering within yourself, and you'll create more self-hatred within yourself and self-blame. And it's absolutely not helpful. So really, really release that, right? So, an example of something that people often think is good for you, post loss, is like, an example would be exercise, right? People are like, okay, I'm going to get back to my routine. I'm going to get back to, waking up at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. and being on a disciplined routine where, I'm getting my adrenaline pumping, or, it's like getting back to eating my healthy salads all the time. It's like, really listen to your body, right? Like, most of the time, post and during recovery, your body is not going to be operating at the same energetic bandwidth as it was. And so again, like, don't be weightlifting 150 pounds after this, right? Give your muscles time to repair and recover. And yeah, so really just like, let your body's intuition speak to you over logic. Logic in the sense of logic that comes from conditioning and past patterning, right? The worst thing you can do is to try to enforce a strict routine, thinking that discipline is going to get you back on track. It's not going to get you back on track through discipline. Devotion and care for yourself, right? Like doing things in consistency every day that help you, that support you, even the things that sometimes you feel like you don't want to do. For example, for me, I didn't really want to go on walks every day, but I made myself go on 15-minute walks every day because I knew that it was going, like, fresh air was going to be good for me, and just like moving my legs a little bit would be good for me. But like, that devotion was good for me. However, right, like getting super into like strictness and rigidity, it doesn't help, right? It makes the tender part of you feel very sad, even sadder, and it makes the grief harder to access. Find time to be in silence, to be in quiet, to be on your own, to be with yourself. So, meditate if that feels okay for you. Meditation is beautiful. I personally actually, like, I couldn't meditate for a good couple weeks after my loss, and actually during the 2 weeks of like post ultrasound, when we found out that we were probably miscarrying, to having passing the pregnancy and then having the DNC. I didn't want to meditate in those 2 weeks, probably because I just didn't want to go into my body and access the miscarriage that was holding in my body. I felt a little bit of guilt around that, but it was just something I had to give myself grace around. Sometimes meditating can be quite confronting. It takes you right into your body, right? It takes you right into like what's happening in there. And so, if you don't want to meditate imminently, and if you have a meditation practice, don't feel bad about it. It's okay to take time off meditation. And at the same time, meditation can be helpful if that feels okay for you to do. It's a beautiful way of just finding quiet and like finding stillness and finding a sense of gravity and center point within yourself and through the whole process. But my recommendation would be definitely like go out to nature, go for short walks in nature, go sit in nature, go for a forest bathe, go sit on the beach. If you have a beach near you, go sit by the lake. If you have a lake by you, get yourself into nature. It is grounding, it is regulating for the nervous system, and it will just pull you back into a remembrance of a higher process, a bigger, greater intelligence happening all around you, right? Nature always helps me feel embraced and cocooned and supported. So yeah, nature is beautiful. Don't distract with TV on the couch all day, every day. Right? So I feel like there's a theme here, right? It's like, don't potato and don't, disregard care for yourself. But also don't go into extreme modes of thinking that discipline is a form of care. So finding your own balance, your own sense of, okay, what would actually feel radically caring, nourishing, and loving for myself at this time? What would feel radically supportive for myself? And like commit yourself, devote yourself to those practices. Yeah, like for me, I'm just gonna like tie it back from earlier. Like for me, reading and writing and cooking were the ways that I felt like it was giving me a sense of like I was nourishing myself, yet I was also coming back to myself, yet I was also allowing myself to be outside of my body just a little bit when I needed to be, when the grief and when the thoughts were just too much. Okay, know that your partner isn't going to be experiencing this whole process the same way you are. Right? So when we go through grief like this, when we go through a pregnancy loss, it's really important to remember the fact that as the mother, right, as the woman, you have been the one carrying the pregnancy. You are the one with the hormones and the body that has changed. You are the one who has most closely and directly connected to the baby. And you are the one who has most viscerally felt the pregnancy, right? At this point, you are the single person most connected to the pregnancy, most connected to the spirit baby, most connected to the baby. And, I will speak from my own experience. Logically, right, post miscarriage, I knew that my husband didn't have the same experience as me. I knew that he hadn't connected to the baby the way that I had just yet, right? Because to him, like he hadn't, like our baby hadn't kicked yet, right? So he hadn't felt the baby in my belly. To him, it wasn't fully real yet. It was still kind of an abstract concept. Like he was excited about it, but it was still abstract. And, I've spoken to him since, and for him, he said, I don't know if I would have really felt as connected as you to the baby until I held, the baby in my arms when they were, out of your body. And so it's really important to give your partner grace just around the fact that they don't know. They can't really fully know what you're going through. They can be compassionate and they can sympathize, but most likely they can't even really fully empathize. And so, notice where you are expecting them to understand your exact experience. I was guilty of this, right? I wanted him to understand. I wanted him to hold it with me. I wanted him to grieve with me, like me. And the truth is, like, all of us grieve differently. All of us process differently. Our partners, our men, they will go through their process individually. They will navigate their grief their own way, but we can't expect it to be the same as ours. And when we do that, we only essentially hurt ourselves and we hurt the relationship. That's something I had to learn the hard way. So it's hard, right, to feel like you're the one who has to hold the grief or hold the majority of the grief on yourself, with yourself, as supportive as your partner can be. But ultimately, you are the mother, and that is your responsibility. And so, what's important here is to explain your needs, explain your experience, communicate what you're going through, not from a way of like judgment or saying, I'm going through this and you're not, but like explain your needs. Just like explain, like, this is what I'm going through. It's hard in this way because of this way, and this is what I need from you, and this is what I need from this time. And, you know, allow him to respect that. Allow him, give him the opportunity to rise up to the challenge of giving you what you need as you need it. And, you know, if he sometimes misses the mark, if he like says something that doesn't that isn't like the most sensitive to, you know, the very like sensitive grief that you're experiencing, have forgiveness and grace with that. And, you know, something worth noting here too is that I've found that, at least with my partner, and I actually think that this is probably a common experience, men, you know, when they see their woman, right? And, you know, to be honest, this will apply whether you're in a same-sex relationship or, you know, like any kind of relationship with between any genders. Like, there is a more masculine energy in the relationship typically, and then there's a more feminine energy in the relationship. So the more masculine counterpart will tend to want to go into protector mode, right? When you see your feminine counterpart in pain, their immediate instinct is going to be to protect you, right? Their immediate instinct is going to be to try to fix the problem. Their immediate instinct is going to be to try to provide for you really practical things that make your life better. At least that was how my husband really responded to really responded to me when I was grieving, right? He would be incredible about, you know, just like taking a load of the housework, taking up, like doing basically all of the chores so I didn't have to be doing them. And, you know, driving me to places as I needed him to. And, you know, really cherish the ways in which your partner shows up for you. And if there are, you know, ways in which you want to be able to be emotionally communicated with, voice those needs, right? It's important that you communicate. Otherwise, you know, men and women, masculine, feminine, there are different brains, there are different minds. And so we need to, just have grace with understanding our differences in the grief and in the recovery process. So, this loss is invisible, right? Pregnancy loss, miscarriage, it's a loss that is invisible. It's a loss that, unless, you know, you've told said person about said loss, most likely the people around you wouldn't be able to tell that you lost someone or something, right? There's no like huge marker, right? There's no, it's just something that like it's invisible. And, you know, also on top of that, a lot of people kind of keep it very close to themselves. I know a lot of women don't like to share that they've miscarried. I have found that honestly sharing has been very liberating and healing for me. And also I just really want more people to be talking about miscarriage without a taboo or weirdness around it. But everyone has their own process. If you want to keep it close to your heart, that's, you know, that's yours. But I think because of that, there can be this feeling for the mother, for the woman, that you have to hide it, or you have to keep it to yourself, or, you know, you can't talk about it with others because what if it makes people uncomfortable, or like what if people don't understand? And the truth is, you know, many people, you know, your coworkers or your acquaintances, many people may not know how to react, and they may not know how to hold space for you, right? Even friends who you love dearly can get kind of awkward around subjects that they have never been accustomed to or familiarized with, right? They can get awkward around it, and, you know, it's not necessarily their fault, but to, you know, just know that that's not personal. Don't take that personally. And, you know, when people project onto you, right, whether it's your parents, sometimes parents love to project, or whether it's just, anyone outside of you who, you know, we've talked about this a little bit already, but, this expectation that you should be grieving on some timeline, or that, you should be doing this, during miscarriage, or you should be doing that, or that it's, maybe it was this that was the problem. Maybe it was like this that caused the miscarriage. It's really important that you just literally wash out all of that noise from your brain, right? Like when people are, sometimes when people are, wanting to support you, they mean the best. When people are trying to respond to you in such a sensitive time, they mean well. But when something doesn't land quite right, when something is too much, when something just feels like it's unwarranted, know that that is theirs and you have yours. What is theirs is not yours, and you do not have to take on any of their projections, any of their expectations, any of their ideals, any of the information, the data that they're giving you, right? Just, there is no timeline. There is no timeline for grief. There is no timeline for when you should start or can start trying again, conceiving again, if that's what you want to do. There is no timeline and no instruction manual for any of it. And when someone tries to give you an instruction manual, it is up to you what you want to take from that. Just like even in this video, in this episode, right? Like what I'm sharing with you, not an instruction manual by any means, but the advice that you want to take it. What feels right, take it. What doesn't feel right, please don't, right? Yeah. So let's talk about grief now. Grief will eventually change shape, right? So, over time, as you alchemize grief, as you, feel your emotions, as you process your experience, the initial waves of it will change form, right? Like the waves of grief now for me don't feel nearly as constant. They don't feel nearly as sharp. I still have moments, in my day or, moments in my week where I will miss my pregnancy, where I will miss my baby, where I will think, oh, it's now been 3 months since the miscarriage. She would be over 6 months now. She'd be in her 3rd trimester. And then I'll feel a little sad about it, or feel a lot sad about it. And the grief, it comes and goes. But it's definitely changed shape, right? So if you are in the imminent stages of like processing your grief, know that it does, I wouldn't say get better, but it does process through. And the way that you will relate to your pregnancy and to your baby will change. And as long as you are actually processing and feeling your feelings and working through it, as opposed to avoiding and suppressing it, right? But again, the process is different for everyone. Grief is different for everyone, right? And I am a few months out, but I have heard from people I know that even several years later, they'll still think of their miscarriage. They'll still think of this pregnancy loss. They'll still think of this baby they lost, and they'll still miss them. They'll still grieve for them, decades later. And so there's no timeline again with this. It's so important to keep saying, this is like another theme. There is no timeline. There is no timeline. There is no timeline. There is no timeline for any of it. So just release any pressure that you may be putting on yourself in any way. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to offer a little bit of a spiritual perspective, and some spiritual tips, I suppose, that I have. So it's really beautiful and really powerful to connect with your spirit baby. Connecting with my spirit baby during my pregnancy and post-pregnancy, post-loss, it has been a huge part of how I have alchemized and how I have moved through this grief with more grace than I think even I had expected that I could navigate through with. A lot of people have asked me, you know, how have you moved through it so openly and so open-heartedly and so boldly and courageously? And I don't say that to toot my own horn. I say that to really illustrate this point that, to be honest, being in connection with my spirit baby has been a huge part of it. I have been able to feel and see, I get emotional. I've been able to feel and see how, you know, this embryo that was in my belly, this baby that was inside of me, how now, you know, she has she's just transformed in form. She hasn't left me. She is all around me. I can communicate with her whenever I want to, whenever she wants to. She will send me signs and messages out of nowhere. I will, you know, pray to her, and I will ask for messages from her. I will, you know, offer her, you know, my thoughts and my daily things to her every day, if not every other day, weekly. And I just know that she's still here. It basically allows me to realize, truly, truly realize that our spirit babies are never leave us, right? They might leave this specific timeline of them becoming a human earthside at this time, but their spirit, you know, the spirit that had come into the body or was meant to come into the body at this time with this pregnancy, they're still guiding us from all around, from within. And it's comforting. It's simply comforting. And it's also empowering. And it's also just true. And so, you know, while there is extreme grief, like immense grief for the fact that, you know, I was so excited for her to come earthside. I was so excited for her to be my first baby. And at the same time, she has become, you know, now she has become my spirit guide. She has become one of my spirit guides. And she has opened me to lessons and opportunities and life experiences. This has been a life experience that has, you know, grown me in such immense ways. And it's, yeah, just allowed me to, it's allowed me to heal in a much more connected way. But obviously, you know, I will say this, like, only connect with your spirit baby if you truly can land with the concept that you have a spirit baby, right? If that makes sense. So, you know, if you do, right, if you resonate with the concept, the truth of spirit babies, that you have a spirit baby, that your physical baby, that your embryo, your fetus was connected to a spirit being, really, really, I encourage you to connect with them if you haven't already, right? Call them into your meditations, call them in when you go for a walk, ask them for messages, ask them to send you signs, ask them for synchronicities, and just talk with them, you know, talk with them the way that you would talk to a friend, talk to them the way that you would talk to your little baby, your little kid. And, you know, really try not to connect with them from the intention of fixating on the question of like, why did this happen? Like, why did you leave? Or like, you know, trying to figure out an answer as to why, you know, the loss or the miscarriage happened. But instead to connect with an open heart, right? Connect and trust, connect to them to receive whatever it is that they want to give you, that they feel you're ready to hear and listen to, and trust that, our spirit babies, are, they're, they're more intelligent than we can understand. They're probably much more intelligent than us as souls. And they have a agenda. Like, they have a plan. They have a higher view of everything that you're going through, that everything that, you and your partner are going through, everything that you're about to traverse and have traversed in your life. They're aware of it all. And, this is never to say it all happens for a reason. Because I never like to say that. I never like to just throw that out there. But, if this resonates with you, know that your spirit baby chose this path for you, for him or her, for your family, for some reason. And sometimes it takes us time to discover what that reason is. That's okay. Maybe right after the miscarriage, you already kind of had a sense of why this had to happen. That's beautiful as well. But yeah, connect with your spirit baby and just be open. Tell them that you miss them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you want to hear what they've been up to. Tell them what you've been up to. I personally connect with my baby through the sky and through chrysanthemums, the flower. And so since the loss, I have made it a personal ritual of mine, and sometimes Chris, my husband, will join me in it. We'll bring chrysanthemum flowers to open water. I started doing this when I was in Bali running my retreat, like 4 weeks after the miscarriage. And there were a lot of chrysanthemums in Bali. And just bringing flowers to open water and under an open sky, and just praying to her, saying to her, I'm here, I can feel you. And I do feel her, and sometimes I'll do it sunrise or sunset to really just like see the colors of the sky. And that's just so beautiful. So yeah, find your own ritual with what connects you to your baby. When you find that ritual, it's a really powerful thing. So going off of that, making a small altar is a way that you can remember them as well, right? So building a altar with, a couple things that you use during pregnancy, or, that remind you of the pregnancy, that remind you of this baby. You can use crystals, you can, use fabrics, whatever you want, nature, pieces of nature. Just having a little place in your home, a sacred spot in your home that is in devotion to them, is a beautiful way that you can just like hold on to that love. And I know that might sound counterintuitive when people think about like moving on from grief or moving on from loss. But it's actually not, I found, like remembering the loss through this act of devotion to the love that you have for them is a way that we actually get to welcome in the grief, and therefore welcome in the love even more so. Welcome in, also on a spiritual sense, like welcome in our connection with our spirit baby and with a higher process. And, having an altar, while it is, yes, a reminder, like I have my altar right here in front of me diagonally. You can't see it, but it's right here. Having that here, like it, yes, connects me to my spirit baby. It connects me to what happened. And at the same time, it's been something that has actually helped me let go. Has helped me let go of the pain and the suffering that I had wrapped so into, just into the loss. So if that feels right, build an altar. Last thing I'll say, this is my last piece of guidance. Welcome in the moments of love and joy that you will start to experience again. Welcome in the laughter. Welcome in the bliss. Welcome in moments of real love that you experience with your partner, your family, with your friends, with your work, with life thereafter. I think one story that people can get really stuck on is thinking that if I allow myself to be happy again, then that means that I am betraying the loss, right? And there's a strange kind of guilt that can come up when you start to begin to move forward and when the grief starts to change in its shape and when life does start to feel a little bit lighter and your body starts to feel a little bit more easeful again. There is a grief around letting go of the grief. There is a grief around letting go of the loss. But the more, I'm getting emotional, the more you can welcome in the joy and just the love in your life and the gratitude that you can have for your life, the more you will be able to experience the sorrow and the grief in the light of that love. The more you will be able to experience grief in bigger and wider ways. Please know that joy doesn't take away from grief. And, my own loss, it has opened me up to my life in a completely new way. It has opened me up to myself in a new way. I didn't think that it was possible for this loss, which was honestly, it was traumatic for me. It was immense for me. I didn't know it was possible to grow or to bloom or to blossom in this way 3 months after, several months after, at all. But it has been a gift. And yeah, it's brought me into such deep gratitude for the miracle that is my life and the miracle that is the life of everyone I know. And it has, brought me closer to what it means to be human. It has brought me closer into my connection with the divine source, God, higher consciousness, universe, whatever you want to call it. And I know that might sound bizarre if you're just at the beginning of, your recovery and the journey of healing from loss. But I just want you to know that not necessarily that this too will pass, even though, yes, everything does pass eventually. But that while, grief and this kind of grief, this kind of a loss, it will stay with you forever in some way. You'll carry it with you in your heart, probably forever in some way. It gets to open you and it gets to teach you. And you get to heal with it and from it, and you get to grow with it and from it, and you get to expand with it and from it. And you get to choose how you approach the process of recovery and how you approach navigating your grief. And it's not easy to become conscious and, really attuned to yourself during a process that essentially really takes you out of your body. But, these tips that I've shared today are ways that I have found that have brought me back to my body enough during the loss, have brought me back enough to myself during the recovery process so that I've been able to navigate just the whole tidal wave of it all in a pretty graceful way. not without there was turbulence, but overall in a graceful way that I now, get to really, I get to not just be proud of, but I get to be grateful for. And so, yeah, this was very long. I hope that, there was a lot of material here for you that you get to receive in your own perfect timing, divine timing, as you need. If this resonated with you, if this supported you, if this helped you, if you take any of these tools and tips and pieces of advice and it really serves you, I would love to hear about it. If you want to comment down below, or if you want to send me a direct DM on Instagram, or even an email, I would love to hear about, how this has supported you. And, we moms, moms who have gone through loss, we got to stick together and we got to keep in connection. And so I'm always so happy to hear from those of you who, have resonated with my pregnancy loss story, because I feel you, I hear you, and you're not alone. Okay. I'll see you in the next episode.